Hello, Tori. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad you can join me on short notice. It's great. Leading into this conversation, we were chatting about a few things, and during that, where my head went was kind of how you and I started our, I guess you could say, friendship that turned into like a little bit of a coaching relationship later on. And I remember a few years ago, you followed me when I was going after some record attempts, and I was a little bit outspoken on certain topics with social media and Instagram. And obviously, I followed you back because I was heavy into powerlifting coaching at the time. And I used to post things on my story of mindset or approaches to certain things. And I remember you sent me a message and I responded to it. And then, like 2 days later, you left me on red, no big deal. 2 days later, you responded to it with these big paragraphs. And I won't go into the details of those paragraphs, but I remember at the time you were definitely I felt like you were kind of like at the start of your journey in athletics in a way and your mindset development. And I ended up turning to me, it felt like a dynamic where I was offering some like maybe some life or career perspectives. I know you're going through, a rough patch here and a breakup at the time. And then I bring it all the way to this conversation, which would be 4 years later. You're 24 now. In
25.
that 25 now, got it, I'm off. 20. Okay, got it. My bad, my bad. You, in that time, you won the Pan Am American Game. You're a three-time national champion, one-time national champion running up. You came sixth at Worlds, third at Worlds, two gold medals at Worlds. You also 336 days after your last powerlifting meet, you did Ironman Calgary 70.3, so half Ironman, and you did it in 5 hours and 54 minutes and 48 seconds. And recently, you decided to do an ultra marathon of 62 kilometers, 2,280 meters of elevation, and you did that in 8 hours and 48 minutes, and you got a bronze medal. And one thing that I will say, because you're not going to like this, but I'm just going to say it anyways for people listening, is when you and I trained together in Ottawa 2 years ago, super unofficial, but you and I were joking around who could bench more. And there's quite a few people there as witnesses. I have a video of it too, where you set the super unofficial world record where you benched 265 at 613 that night. So I'm curious. I'm going to open a very vague question. How'd you do it? How did you go from that conversation in that place all the way to getting all of these things done in 4 years? Because within those 4 years, you have dramatically surpassed me in coaching and in athletics. I'll never touch anything that you've done. So I'm curious how that happened and how'd you do it?
To put it simply, I think you just decide what you want to do, make a rough plan, and then do as much as you can to work towards that every single day with whatever is in your capacity at that time. So I think when I was starting to transition away from just lifting and I wanted to get into more endurance endeavors, the first thing I wanted to do was start running. And as you know, because we were working together at the time, I couldn't really run more than like an hour a week. I was having a lot of foot ankle problems. And that's when I just quickly changed course and decided that a lot of cross training would be the better thing to do at the time. And even though I wanted to be doing like ultra marathons at that point, I had to kind of go the Ironman route for a while. And it was just something to like cross off the bucket list. And then through that, I was able to run again, and then I was able to move on to the next thing. But I think as problems arise when you're working towards something, you just have to like adapt and then do literally do what you can. And that's kind of what you're doing right now with your training as well. Like you can't run, but you know you want to again one day. So all you can do like today or tomorrow is what your body is allowing you to do, right?
Got it. So when you started your powerlifting journey, Do you think that you started like with the next logical goal or step for you? Like, is that what I hear in that? Like, it's like, let's win this next meet and just like show up every day in a micro level and just keep working, chipping away at it versus because some people will think big picture where it's like, I want to win worlds one day and that's their target. So it sounds like maybe that might have been there, but it was mostly like the next thing and then breaking it down to the individual day.
Yeah, like that was my target definitely when I started actually competing in powerlifting. I think I was 16 at the time, but Worlds was the first thing I saw, and I was like, I want to get there one day. Like, I want to step on the podium there one day. And I was just having so much fun with training that that would never even cross my mind. Maybe like once or twice a year, like for the first few years, I would be like, yeah, oh yeah, like I do want to go to Worlds, but I was like, I know that's way down the road, so like I'm just gonna keep having fun with it and doing what I can. So then I would do that, and then got to my first nationals, which took me almost 2 years, I think, because there's a whole qualification process. And then I think my first nationals was like a huge failure. And I was like so humbled and I was like, whoa, that was so like way harder than I thought it would be. Like, I just thought I was gonna like run away with a win and it was gonna be like the easiest thing ever. And then I'd go to Worlds and like tick off the goal, but that didn't happen. So then I had to go back, train for another whole year, and then go back to nationals and do it again. And then that time I did win, but then COVID happened and then I didn't get to go to Worlds. So then the whole thing was delayed another year. And I was like, okay, we're gonna go back to training, go back to the drawing board, do it again. So then it was then the third year I trained and then that's when I went to Worlds. But my body was in shambles. So didn't hit the goal that I wanted, which was to like step on the podium. Well, I did place first on bench, but to me that doesn't really count. So
It counts for me, that's for sure. When
yeah,
I
yeah.
talk shit to my friends about you, I always tell that in their face. Um, I'm curious though because so you the expectation and the confidence was super high going into Nats and didn't go your way. It humbled you. And the next year, you won. So in your preparation going into both meets, I'm more curious. I'm not curious about the physiological training. I'm more curious about the shift in psychologically to adjust your mindset to perform better on the second nationals where you won.
I think the second time I was actually less focused on winning and more focused on just having the best day that I could with how my training was going. So, I've had a lot of different like injuries or some kind of issue at the time, except for the last year I was lifting is when I kind of figured everything out. But I've never had like a good preparation for anything. I kind of had to just go in and give it all I had that day. So I learned that, and then that was ended up being my mindset, like, moving forward. The first year just taught me a lot. I did a pretty big weight cut, so then the next time I had to dial in a bunch of things there. So, a little bit was mindset, but there is a lot of little, like, technical things that you can work on that make a big difference, especially in a sport where there's, like, in weight cutting sports. Like, doesn't matter how mentally strong you are, if your body isn't responding to, sweating or losing the weight or being a girl and having hormonal changes, like, that's stuff you can't control, right? So, a little bit of luck and and, like, calculating things to make it there, but yeah, I
So do you think those? Because you said a lot of it. Some of it was mindset, but it sounds like you're leaning more towards the technical changes that you made. But I'm just curious, like, to poke you a little bit, like, do you think that those technical changes that you made to the weight cutting or training, don't you think it also like bled into your mindset too to put you in a better place to perform?
yeah, like, it did make me more confident, and also just the more you train, the more you compete, the more meets you do, it just it becomes easy, like, you're not stressed, like, you know the whole process going into it, and it just becomes like another day of training kind of. So that is how I treated it. I had more fun with it and acted like I would going into training rather than some big event that needs to be like put on a pedestal. And yeah, things for me, things go a lot better when I'm relaxed.
You
So
know, it's interesting because I know you well. In full disclosure, we worked together for maybe 9 months for an Ironman. So I do know some of these things that I'm asking you, but it's important the audience hears it. But it's interesting because the other night when I was preparing for this, I read through every single Instagram post you've ever had that's currently on your grid. And not to embarrass you, but it might, but it's all good. Open conversation. You can tell your mindset change from my perspective on the paragraphs and the long reads at the beginning of your career. And then as you progress through your career, it is very concise or it's more just like a one sentence mindset. And it feels like a lot of athletes, including myself, like their identity is so entrapped to like, I'm Tori, a powerlifter, and everything is like tied to that. And then you have a bad meet, and then it's this huge emotional write up. And then it's a spiral, and then it just reads like your head is kind of like all over the place. And when I say you, I also will say I've done it. A lot of athletes have all done it. Um, but even if you have a bad meet or a good meet, it seems like your perspective on it is has changed a lot. Like you seem more grounded. You seem more like not Buddha, but like secure in yourself. And I don't see you now as Tori the powerlifter. When I think back then, it was just that's who you were. So do you think like your perception or your own identity, like how you view yourself, is like shifted as well? Because it feels like right now it's not, or near the end of your career, it wasn't like everything powerlifting. Like there's a lot of other things in your life going on.
oh yeah, I think I had a really bad hip and back injury in like 2020 or 2021, and it lasted for almost 2 years, and it took me until, like, the end of that point to realize that I just enjoy so many other things that aren't powerlifting or not even, like, athletic related, and I just had to come to terms, like, I might not be able to lift again or might not be able to train as hard as I want, but my life is still really good, and there's so many other things I can put my energy into, and what I'm doing in athletics doesn't matter at all. Well, it matters. Like it has made me a better person. Like it teaches me so much. And even now, like it continues to teach me a lot, but it's not it's not everything. And I don't need it to be a good human. I don't need it to be a good coach. Like I just have so many other good things going on, you know? So my happiness doesn't my performance. And I guess that also kind of answers your question of my my Instagram captions getting a lot shorter because I'm just like good or bad. I probably had a really good time and I learned a lot. So then like that's with anything I compete in now, like that's kind of how it goes. I'm like I loved training and I trained really hard. So whatever however it goes is a good experience. And I I have a lot of thought like internal thoughts about things, but I'd rather just journal and keep it to myself or like talk with people about it than write it on social media because I don't know, I don't think people care as much as you think they do. And I don't want to waste my time with people that don't actually care, you know?
Yeah, I love the end of that because this is a good segue to going into social media because I think right now in the social media sphere, uh, we'll just for, we'll combine to say powerlifting and endurance sports or fitness in general, bodybuilding. Sure, we'll say all of that. together, umbrella. On one side, we have rage bait. I think they call it, where they post like, don't do this, or don't turn your hip this way, or some garbage. But they're just doing that and doing dumb workouts so you click so they get views and they make money or drive the algorithm. And on the other side, you have people that are doing these reaction videos where they're putting their face over someone else's video and critiquing them, which is also kind of rage bait because it just creates like a weird, like hostile beef environment. And then there's like, so that's like 45-45 in my opinion. And then there's like 10% in the middle. And that's where you are. And I believe that that is the best place to be. Recently, I unfollowed like I think 200 accounts. So when anyone posts anything rage bait or reaction video, I just unfollow because it's just not good energy. It's kind of like hostile, and I feel like you've been able to perform at such a high level, but also escape that world, if that makes sense.
And
Yeah, I think the mental health piece that you mentioned is important to kind of dive into a bit on social media. And full disclosure, like I get it. People that are making those videos and stuff, like I don't have anything against any of these individuals. I don't think honestly, other than this conversation, I don't really think about them or see their stuff anymore. But
I
it
get it too
just
when I see stuff like that. I'm like, I understand this is how some
yeah,
people make money, but
got it.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't feel good making my money like that, so I'm not gonna do it. Like we
Well,
have choices.
the interesting thing, and obviously, I think it's important we don't say any names, but there are many people that you and I are friends with, worked with in the world of athletics or business that have large followings and do that kind of stuff. And my understanding, I'm sorry, my perspective is that whenever I've been around these individuals, there's not very many that I would consider I'm envious of in terms of mental health. Like their entire life is like they live through like a myopic view that everything that they're doing has to be connected to what other people are thinking about them. And what I mean in that is you go to an influencer gym, they're going into that gym to work out and train. And some of them are training hard, don't get me wrong. But they're also planning on their content, taking videos, their outfit. Like it becomes so self absorbed that you become a movie star in your own head. And in my opinion, movie stars and celebrities seem to be the most miserable people out there. And that's just not something I think is like advantageous for someone who wants to take maybe a more optimal approach, if you will, on being successful at something without losing their mind to social media. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think in my mind, like I don't I feel like I don't have anything to prove on social media. Like I am happy and proud of what I'm doing every day behind closed doors, I guess. And when I go out and do something, sure, I'll share it, but I don't feel like I need to show everyone what I did every day to achieve that. You know, if someone's genuinely interested and they ask, I would love to share with them like the process, but I I do things because I enjoy them and they bring value to my life and I want to be present while I'm doing those things. When I'm training, I want to be present. I don't have to worry about, filming things and making sure I'm in the perfect outfit and
Like your what is it? Your save stories from like it's I think it's called lifting with no G at the end, and it's like videos
oh
of you
yeah.
lifting through the and you can like I know I know I'm trying to embarrass you, but like you can it's online, so you can tell like there was the Tory that would do that, and now there's the Tory that just doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And I also find for you, and I could be wrong on this. This is a total guess. I feel like holistically in life, whether it's coaching, sport, mental health, you are performing the best place you ever have, and you've also gotten away from that kind of stuff on social media. And the reason why I bring that up is kind of interesting because you follow me on social media for a while. Something that I've always struggled with is being humble in life, and I like to talk shit. And I used to talk shit all the time, and I used to post a lot of shit, like all my training and all that kind of stuff. And What I realized for myself is kind of what you alluded to is it became this thing of like proving, like, look at me and look at this 3 hour training session I did at 5 a.m. Like it, and I realized that I used to bullshit people, and I used to say, "No, no, I'm doing it because I'm trying to inspire people or help them." But when I asked myself why I really like reflected on it, it was genuinely just my own ego and satisfying it. Because I would post some crazy training like, 1,000 pull-ups before work or something, and then I would get like a DM or likes by a hot chick, or it just became like this perpetual cycle of just like fulfilling my ego. And I still post a little bit, but a lot less. And I got a lot happier. And I also performed a lot better when I'm training because I'm present, like you mentioned, and I'm focused. So I'm sure there's athletes out there that are going to post everything and still crush it. I just think like one of the most purest forms of doing something and pushing yourself for the moment that you're in and not thinking about what others are going to think about you on social media. And the story I'll give you on that, because it's kind of embarrassing for me, but I used to think when I trained, I used to play, I like rap, as you know, and I used to think about what lyrics to a rap song that I'm going to tag on my reels while I was training. And now I'm a guy where like, I don't look at my heart rate. I don't even look at my heart rate when I take my watch off. Like I put my phone in the other room. Like I'm just dialed in. My training's way better. So I think that you're right that A, just don't use social media, or two, journal or share those thoughts with people that are like in real life and build those relationships. Um, yeah, I think social media right now has been a bit of a net negative for people
For sure,
and
and
our
the
world.
algorithm and stuff doesn't help because you're getting stuff you don't even follow, so now when I go on there, I'm like, I don't follow any of these accounts. Like, when I go on there, I just wanna see what my friends posted, the people I follow, you know, and I love looking at people's training, but I want it to be like my friend's training, not a random person from across the world that I don't know, like, I don't wanna waste my energy on all of that, and just feels yeah, I just feel drained most times when I go on it now, so I think the best thing is to just stay off of it as much as
Yeah.
you can, but, I mean, I have had a job that is online for my entire life now, so well, my entire time that I've had a stable career, so can't get away from it completely, but there are things you can do and, like, perspective shifts just to make it more positive, I think.
Yeah, like anything, it's a tool. And I think that you're probably at a disadvantage in, well, you are factually in your line of work to not be on social media.
Yeah, if I
And
wasn't in my line of work, I definitely wouldn't have social media at this point. A
yeah.
few years ago, I probably would've because I I was one of I had an ego and I wanted to, like, show my training, show everyone what I was doing, but, yeah, now I'm more like, I'm really happy with, like, where I'm at and what I'm doing and fulfilled with it that I don't care what people are thinking, you know? So
Yeah, I think that's important. Actually, you know what? Something just hit me. I'm curious. So let's do a thought experiment on something that just hit my head. So on this side will represent the number 100, and it'll be everything that you're doing in terms of your training and working hard in life is to prove haters, naysayers, people that have done you wrong in the past, whatever, whoever that is. And on this side is zero, and it is everything that you're doing in the same context is for people that you care about and love. Where do you think you stand on that spectrum?
oh, wait, which side was 100?
100 was like doing it for like haters, and like
Okay.
zero was doing it for like people that like you care about and love and like have positive relationships with.
Oh,
Like
well, definitely 0 then.
you're at zero, like a full
Like,
zero.
I would not give energy to people that I mean, I don't hate anybody. I so hate's a really strong word.
No, but
I
I
don't
mean,
think
like I'm
anyone's
being
ever
like
gone
people that
that
have
way.
hated you, like people who would might like. I'll give you an example, right? Like people make things up in their head sometimes, right? Or like their competition, or maybe an ex-boyfriend or some girl in a powerlifting gym, like all of that negativity that's happened in your life, because we've all experienced negativity from others. And some people will use that as fuel, as a motivator to crush life or sport. So I could have asked that a bit better, but like what I hear in that is now pretty much all that you do now working hard is for positive things.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
And honestly, I've kind of always been like that, even though I was more like, I had more of an ego at one point. It was never really to, like, prove people wrong. I was just like, "I think what I'm doing is cool, and, like, I want people to think I'm cool too." Whereas now I'm like, well, I'm still like, I think what I'm doing is cool, but even if someone else doesn't think it's cool, like, I don't care, but I just like to think that everybody else is thinks the same way that I do, but I know that's not always the case, so, yeah, if I don't know, I've never really, like, had I've never not liked somebody, I've never had an interaction with somebody that they were, like, talking shit about me or something, you know? I mean, people probably do, but I don't hear about it, so it doesn't affect me, and it doesn't really impact my life.
yeah, I had a feeling that would be your answer. Full disclosure, I've never asked that before. And I have gone from myself from maybe not 100, but like 80, like, fuck these people and hate these people. I'm going to crush their souls, like David Goggins kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm kind of more like at 20 now. I don't think I'll ever be zero because I can be a bit petty sometimes. But I have found that over time, the athletes that I follow or the people that I pull inspiration from are kind of on this side of things. Like I don't really get like, it's like success porn, right? Where it's like you're listening to certain like athletes that are like talking shit and going crazy, like Floyd Mayweather, and you get all hyped up. Like that just doesn't like motivate me anymore. And I feel like looking back on it, when I used to think that way, it actually just made my mental health way worse. Like it was
Yeah.
just like this bullshit
It's
ego
such a
driven thing.
dopamine spike, I think. Like, you're riding a high, like, and you're training hard, and you're like, "Everything is like, I'm better than all these people," and, like, whatever. But then when you come to your house at night and everything's quiet and you're by yourself, you're like, "Shit, like, these people really they don't care, and I just wasted all of that energy on, like, trying to prove people wrong." So
It's funny because I used to say this story at work all the time to people, and it was the hot influencer chick on the treadmill. And how the story goes is that when I was very fit, once upon a time, I was on the air runner at the gym, and it was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do an easy pace run today. That's the plan. So as I'm running, a girl that comes in the gym, who I found very attractive and had a big social media following, just picked the treadmill beside me. Not because of me. Other treadmills were taken. She just took the one beside me. And I decided that, you know what, I think today is going to be a speed day. And I did like I don't know, for numbers, I guess, because people care about that stuff. Like the day before, I probably did like a 20K track workout. Like I was pretty beat. And so I was like, you know what? This easy 10K recovery run is now going to be a full on, like, we're just going to go ham. And the interesting thing about that experience was I tweaked my calf and I couldn't run for a couple weeks. She never looked at me, like, really. She didn't care. I never got her number,
I never thought about it again.
never thought about it again. Um, and it's so interesting how like we kind of can like live through that lens, right? So
Oh,
it's
I've
funny
definitely
because
done stuff like that too, so
oh, for sure. Like so like now like in my leadership journey is I use that story a lot, and some of the folks will say that, like, you know, don't be Aaron on a treadmill or the hot influencer chick on the treadmill. Like no one cares. Like it's so important just to stay like focused on like things like what you've been talking about is just the work to be done. And all the other stuff is just noise. No one really gives a shit. Like you are crazy accomplished. I would say you're one of the most accomplished junior females in Canadian history for powerlifting. If you came to this small rural like town in Napanee and went to the local gym, no one would know who you are. But
Exactly.
if your identity is like, oh, I'm Tori, this person, this person, this person, like it's just like a negative mindset, like that dopamine spike, like that success porn, where I think you're better just not even thinking like that. Like you're just focused on the work that you're in. You're an average normal person. And the interesting part is that all the people that I have lined up for this series are all incredibly extraordinary, successful people. And every single time I've talked to them to do this, they say the same thing. Well, I don't know if I'm going to have a lot to offer, but I'll try. And I'm like, bro, you're a retired tier one operator. You're a Stanford aerospace scientist. Like, what do you mean? You're like the highest level in the world. And they're very grounded. Anyways, I'm kind of taking over the call, but I've just
I think
found for
you have to be
myself,
grounded to
yeah,
get to be consistently good or great. You need to be grounded. You can't be like riding highs and lows all the time. You get so burnt out doing that. Cause like I definitely did that for a while, but yeah, it doesn't last. Like you have so much noise in your head from other people, from I mean, your own training, it's probably not gonna go as good if you're basing your training off, like, what other people are thinking or what you think you should be doing rather than, like, listening to your body, and just and making sure you have enough in you to, like, show up and do it again tomorrow.
what's more important to you? Hitting the plan numbers on the sheet or training to feel like how you're feeling that day?
A little I was gonna say training to feel, but, like, a little bit of both, to be honest. Like, I mean, I lift kind of by feel now, especially as I do a lot more running. Like my lifting sessions can be total garbage, but like I still do them because being strong is important. But but yeah, a lot of things like as you know too, a lot of it is by feel. Like when you're training for an ultra, you're gonna feel like shit pretty much the whole time. But, like, there's a point where you need to know, like, what is too much, and if you've been powerlifting for a while too, you'd know that as well. So,
So, why should someone's training scare them?
I I mean, it should be difficult. I think you should be questioning sometimes if you're gonna be able to do something, and then you go do it, and you prove yourself that you can, and you can kind of lessen those questions as you get more experienced. But I think every once in a while, it's good for your training to scare you.
Do you think it's more of like a rare occurrence? Like how often do you think that? Are you talking about like the entire plan should scare them, or should like maybe one session in the week or every 2 weeks? Like where do you stand on that kind of frequency?
Yeah. I mean, like I mentioned before, that is kind of you're riding a high if you're doing something like that. If it was every single session, that's gonna be crazy. But I think for an athlete with like a proper season, so say you're like going to nationals and then you're going to worlds, and those are like your two big meets that year. I think like leading up to any of those meets, there should be a few sessions that you're like questioning if you can do that, whether you're hitting like volume PRs or going for like a really heavy single at the end of prep. And for running now, it would be like, okay, I have like a 40-kilometer run is like my peak run, and I need to climb these mountains. Like my body might blow up, but but we're gonna do it anyways. And it's like kind of scary to think about when you're like getting out the door that morning. But of course, I'm not doing something like that every weekend. It's kind of just happening like as I peak for a race. So I think that's a good way to prepare yourself though for what you're going to uh go through on like your testing day, which is your meet or your marathon.
Do you think that kind of approach was overdone at certain points in your career?
Yeah. Well, I just followed numbers on the sheet and my body never felt good. So I was just like running on fumes for probably like 2 to 3 years where I would like not make adjustments to anything and I would just train through injuries and yeah, just like obviously it snowballs and gets worse and worse. And
Do you
then
think the volume? Oh, sorry, my bad, my bad, my bad. There's a glitch. Keep going.
doing something like that can result in like 2 years of not being able to do much because it catches up to you. So,
Do you regret the amount of volume that you used to do in powerlifting and train when you were a bit younger, when you developed that hips and back issues? And the second question on that I have would be if you went back in time, hypothetically speaking, and you did less volume, do you think you would have had the same results?
so my first answer is looking back, no, I don't regret it. But during
Why?
that, obviously it was horrible. I think it has helped me a lot with coaching because I know, and one of our other coaches, Ben Escrow, that I work with, he did something similar when he was powerlifting, and you you get to learn where the limit is, and a lot of coaches maybe that are great coaches that don't haven't lifted or put themselves in that situation haven't experienced how horrible it can be. So it's helped with both coaching and my training and even like moving over to running like it's volume is still volume like the stimulus I'm putting on my body and I know that yeah I could probably go out and run some like 100-mile weeks if I really wanted to and it would hurt but like long term that's never going to get me where I want to be and in powerlifting if I didn't do that maybe I would have had a bit more of a consistent and like steady career, I guess, and wouldn't have some really bad meets and a lot of up and downs throughout the years. But it did teach me a lot.
Do you think in order you're I know that you're very humble and that I genuinely believe that you don't think you're as great as you actually are, but anyone that knows you and seen what you've done, they're going to say that you're great. Do you think in order to be great, there is a requirement of taking large risks at times in training, like playing with fire, like getting really close to that? Because I personally don't know anyone who I would consider great at their craft, whether it's writing, whether that's sports. It doesn't matter what the craft is, violin, whatever. That didn't do like a soul crushing amount of work and took extreme risks at certain times to get there.
Yeah, for sure. It is it's a requirement. And yeah, anyone who's competed at a high level in anything consistently will attest to that because you need to and honestly like if you like doing something that much and you are genuinely obsessed with the process, like you are going to want to work so hard that you will run yourself into the ground at times and into issues. Like I love training, and if I had it my way and my body was a machine, that is all I would do all day, every day. And I've tried doing that at times. And that's when you run into problems. So, and I mean, I've talked to a lot of powerlifters and like, people at high level in their sport that feel the exact same. Like you want to be getting better all the time, like at any cost. So it's learning just to turn that dial down a little bit. And that's what you learn with time. So
Does it's interesting because does true elite pain-free performance exist?
no,
Got it.
maybe for a bit. Like I mean, I haven't had any major, like, injuries in a long time, but I almost never have, like, I wake up and say, "I am perfect today." Like, there's always something, but
So how do you manage that? Because I hate interrupting, and I always try my best never to do that. I think it's low emotional, intelligent behavior. The only time that I do interrupt is when I want to get a couple rapid questions in real quick. And for you, you just acknowledged what I would agree with, that elite performance without pain doesn't exist. And you wake up some days really sore, but you get the work done. You might adjust a little bit, but you still get the work done. And when I programmed with you for 9 months, I can go into quite a few stories where I was like, holy fuck, this girl's actually insane. But is pain more perception to you than anything? Like how you perceive it versus like the actual physical sensation of it?
yeah, but, like, it takes getting to know your body. So for me, yes, but I can't say that for everybody because there could be something actually wrong with your body that you should address. But for me, like, when I feel different sensations in my body, I'm like, "Oh, like, I've had that before. I know what's going on." Or, like, I know this yeah, like, I know this will go away. I know how to manage that. So, for example, like, every once in a while, my hip will flare up, and it will feel like the pain I had in 2020, and my initial thought is, "Oh, shit, like, here we go. Like, I'm gonna go through this again for, like, 2 years." And then I'm like, "No, no, no, like, I felt this before, maybe it will last 10 days at most, and it will go away and be fine." And every time, like, it just lasts a few days. I don't change much in my training and it goes away. So I know that it's nothing to panic about. But for someone else, like, I can't say what like, if they're dealing with something, it could be serious. So I think it takes a long time of training really hard to learn, like, where that limit is with pain for you, for
And
someone
full
else.
disclaimer, real quick, I know what's going to end up happening with this. I don't touch on it. If anyone's, the people that are listening to this are athletes, if you're sore or hurt or injured, I'm not encouraging you to train through anything. Please, I'm not an expert. Go see your physio. Go see your doctor. Don't take my advice to like run through everything. I'm just sharing like kind of my perspectives on it because I think that my learning from being around, people like yourself and some of the things that I did in ultra endurance a few years ago kind of changed my whole like foundational thinking around pain. And it's like I guess it's interesting because I had to visit a follow-up from my surgery with my family doc yesterday, and she said something to me, and she said, "Is it pain or is it bothersome?" Right?
Yeah.
I think that's an important separation. And there's a couple of things on this where I'm sure you would agree with that 5 years ago, if I had a little niggle in my calf, I wouldn't run with it. But through exposure and understanding what my body can handle and what it can handle, that same niggle, I'll run a 20K run on because I know that sensation. I know that it's worth the risk of doing that activity. But what people seem to not speak on a lot in sport, or they're afraid to because we live in this world of like bulletproof your knee and like pain free training and all that kind of stuff. And like for general fitness, sure. But you have to get a maximum amount of adaptation for yourself at certain points. And I know there's never like an exact measurement of what that adaptation is, but you got to try for it to get the most out of yourself. And you actually have to spill over. And you alluded to Ben Askren. I'm very familiar with some of his programming. Um, there's not a single Lane Norton video that he's ever posted that Ben has coached him where I didn't write on a notepad. That's how actually I learned how to program and how I got an internship with the strength guys actually. And you know Ben 10,000 times more than I do, but I think that's a good example where you do have to play with fire and pain isn't always bad. It doesn't have to be this like horrendous experience that I'm sore, my life is shit. Like sometimes it's okay to feel that. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I like it, maybe. I'm like, "Oh, like, I learned something from doing that. That wasn't good." But, I and it kinda teaches you, like, maybe where your weak points are, right? So, like, when I was dealing with that ankle and calf issue, I'm like, "Okay, well, clearly my feet are not as strong as I would like them to be." So, that's what I hammered for, like, 2 years, and I think and now I just, like, keep incorporating that stuff to maintain it, but yeah, I think you do have to play with fire, and I think it keeps it exciting too.
It's funny you said something there that pain is actually sometimes enjoyable or good or somewhere on those lines. You have an interesting quote, and I want to get your perspective on it. And it is suffering is a hell of a drug. What does that mean? Go to detail on this because I read that the other night and I think I have an idea, but I think that a lot of people, when they hear that, might think you're crazy or they don't fully get it. And I don't think, well, I think you're a little bit crazy, but in the great way. So, what does that mean to you?
Well, it was mostly a joke, but I do genuinely feel that way, and, like, if anyone is done well, I mean, there's different kinds of suffering, right? Like, the kind of suffering I'm putting myself through is voluntary. I'm like, obviously, I'm choosing to go and put myself through that, but there's a lot of other suffering in life that is not voluntary, and that shouldn't be, like, that people aren't riding a high off of, right? If you're, like, going through, like, losing loved ones, maybe you have, like, a really bad illness, like, you're suffering all the time, right? And that's very different than, yeah, me going out and running a race, and it's hard, like, that's easy. So but it's like you're riding a high when you're doing that stuff, right? So it is a drug. Like, I don't feel that I didn't feel that way really when I was lifting. So I do have a very addictive personality. So when I can, like, push myself to that limit and then keep surpassing it, like, it's I don't even know how to explain it. Like, you're just, like, riding a high basically. And I'm sure you can attest to that too, like, with the sessions you've done, so
Yeah, I think the most important part there is the distinguishing difference that you said between choosing the suffering and not, and obviously like involuntary suffering. I find it very interesting for me because when I do share some of the things that I've done and ultra events with the pull ups and the running and what I put myself through, people think I'm like crazy for doing it. But I also think that they're equally as crazy for not doing it because they're never going to live and experience what that feels like. Like your hands are pouring out blood. You just ran 2 marathons and you got to just keep getting back to the bar. And that feeling is pretty like, well, I would say permanent, but like I can tap into that time and like feel an emotion where it's like, that was one of the best times of my life because
exactly.
I know that like that there's one time in my life, well, there's 2 times. That time for chosen suffering was the only time in my life that I truly felt what it was like to empty my soul to something. Like there was nothing more I could do. Like after the event was over, they wanted me to do one more pull up to like take a video of it. And I remember the video never got published because when I grabbed the bar and tried to do a pull up, I couldn't move my arms. So I know that that day my nervous system went to the brink and I got pretty close to like verge of dying, to be honest with you. And I'm not saying everyone has to go to that extent, but I always tell people like for one time, like just go outside, go to a track, and just run a mile as hard as you can. Just empty your soul because no one's it's not the same as running like 100 miles. Like, just go run 100 miles all out. You're probably not going to get that hurt. And just experience what that's like to like have that battery acid in your mouth and just like push yourself and suffer. Like, once people experience that, it's almost like I don't know shit about psychedelics, but it's like a different whole like mental experience that like kind of like opens up different pathways that you never thought was like possible, you know? And you've
Yeah.
obviously experienced that. And one story I have, because this is important that I say this, because this is something I use quite often, is there was a time when you were cycling and you were progressing incredibly rapidly. So we really had no idea where your FTP was or where your percentages were because it was just like so we started doing FTP tests I think every 3 or 4 weeks. And you texted me. I have a screenshot. It's actually favorites in my iPhone. And you screenshotted it. So I screenshotted it and it said, "Yeah, like my head really hurts. I hit my head." And I was like, "Oh, like what happened?" And you're like, "Well, I was 2 minutes away from getting to the goal, and I actually passed out on the bike and hit my head." And it's funny because in my leadership career, I work with a lot of young men that have very big egos, and they all know you by name because I show them that screenshot. Because they'll be like, "I'm tough, and I'll do this, and I'll work a 12-hour shift, and I'll do this." And I was like, "Okay, sure. This is what I think is tough. You got a long way to go," and it kind of like humbles them a bit. But I don't know if I ever pushed myself that hard in training. So I'm just curious for you in that moment, or that you can remember till, what is going through your head to push yourself to the point that you're going to pass out?
I mean, maybe I was dehydrated that day. I don't know.
I don't think that's it. I think that's a mental and a mindset, and there is something that you're thinking of, or a tool that you're using to resource in order to get to that place.
I don't honestly nothing like when I'm and that's why I love endurance is my head just goes blank and I don't think of anything. All I think of is like got to put this next foot in front of the other and it's or I'm just like if I'm outside I'm like looking at trees and stuff and my mind just I'm like not thinking of anything. And when you are pushing yourself to your limits, you don't have the mental capacity to think about anything else. So, if I'm in the gym, like lifting weights, I can just, I'm thinking about other things. Like I'm only doing a few reps and then I'm like, something else is going through my head. Like, oh, I didn't need to answer these emails or whatever. But when you're like literally going to pass out, you're not thinking about the emails you have to answer after you're done your session. Like you're just trying to make sure you're thinking, well, you're not thinking about anything. You're just like, you might pass out. There's no oxygen left in your brain.
So does that does that mean that you enjoy endurance training more than powerlifting?
Right now, yeah, but I do I mean, being strong is freaking awesome. Like, and I most people can that power lifter have competed can will agree obviously with that. There like was a point where I was at my strongest where and my healthiest actually and I felt really confident and good with like what I was doing, but yeah, I think it's just like different phases of life. I still want to be strong. I still like being strong, but I like exploring new things.
Interesting. If you never compete in powerlifting for the rest of your life, and you think like real deep on this, do you think that you're 100% complete with everything that you did in your career?
I would say I feel satisfied that I accomplished my initial goal that I set out to do. And it took me like 7 years to get there. And that's like a pretty big chunk of time. And I feel good about it, but I know I can be stronger. Like there's a lot of untapped potential there.
Is that to a negative space in your head? Like, knowing that you're thinking about every day that there's still more you could have done or you could still do? Does that create like a negative emotional reaction? or positive emotional reaction?
I'd say I'm pretty neutral on it because, I mean, if I want to, I just go to the gym and get strong again. Like, it's not that hard. Like, I just have to put in the work, you know? But, I think you said this to me once, uh, the rabbit that chases many carrots starves.
Oh yeah, that's what I said to that one night. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And to an extent, like, I can't be the best at a new endeavor, like running or whatever, if I also wanna be my strongest. I don't know, maybe I can, maybe I should try, but
Don't do that, please. Yeah, you can't be third at worlds and sub elite or elite at ultra running. It just there's
yeah.
limits to
Yeah.
everything. But well, I'm glad that quote landed with you because it seems like you're in the right place in your career right now for going into the ultra sub, and especially where you live in Alberta, it's perfect.
Yeah,
Is
I'm definitely really lucky.
do you for your hips and your back and things like that? Like, do you still have aches and pains or any issues like reoccurring issues from your powerlifting career? More in like their day to day life, like maybe getting into bed some days, or you have to like carry a bunch of groceries or things like that.
Honestly, knock on wood, no. No, most times no. I'm learning that running long distances and, like, climbing especially, uh hurts my body in different ways. So, like, now it's like my knees and my ankles when I was lifting, like, that was a non-issue.
Are the physical aches? Well, you're quite a bit younger than me, so I have issues in my body that I'm probably at this point going to have for the rest of my life. And as we talked about earlier, and I'm not going to try to be too in detail, but I had a very rare cardiovascular artery issue in my legs, and I had major bilateral surgery on a bunch of stuff, and it's looking like 5% chance I'll ever return to performance and an 18-month recovery period at the minimum, and that's rehab every 3 hours a day. And I often think about myself, and I don't know what the answer is, and I'm curious to kind of work this out with you a little bit. Is if you're in that place, and to say conversation say you're 33, 34, and you're in that place where you're gonna have some issues for the rest of your life because of how hard you trained. Is it worth living from 33 or 40 for the rest of your life with some kind of issues, knowing that you reached certain levels and you gave it your all to something?
If I'm right now and I knew I was gonna have issues down the road, I would honestly say no, because of what I said earlier that, like, my athletic career is not the most important thing in my life. I There's so many things I wanna be able to do that I hope I can do in the future, and I guess right now, like, I am pushing myself, it feels like, to where my, like, capacity is at the moment, but I feel like it's actually gonna make me better and more resilient for the future and not take away from that. So, but if you were to
Interesting.
tell me right now, like, I won't be able to do these things in 5 years because of how I'm training right now, I would definitely scale back. I'm not that hardcore.
Interesting. You're not that hardcore. Hmm, interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting conversation because I think you see like the one side, right, where you see, the condition that Ronnie Coleman's in now. And he has that famous interview. His only regret is that he didn't squat 800 pounds for 4 reps instead of two. And then you have some people who have massive regrets later in life because of how hard they push themselves. And I always like to have these conversations because I think some people, they truly believe that they're only out in life from maybe being in a very bad place, whether that was like poor, in trouble with crime, addiction, like a lot of ultra runners come from, as we know, that was their only way out, was getting into running and pushing themselves. So I find when I have conversations with those people, they don't regret it because that was kind of to them their only out. But I think when people have potentially like different avenues and life situations to go different ways, they have a different perspective on it, if that makes sense. So for me, I don't know. I just think that I I wouldn't have scaled back because that
Yeah.
was for me, that was my only out in life, really, in my opinion. Um, not like not having an education and the second chance school programs and the list goes on. That really running miles is what made me or opened up possibilities of meeting really cool people and getting into powerlifting coaching for a while before I ended that. And I don't think I would go back and change it. So I guess we differ there. It's not better or worse. I was just kind of curious. I don't talk to people at your level in long form this often. So I was just kind of curious what your perspective is on it.
Yeah,
But
I
interesting.
agree, like, I've never really thought about that, but that is a good point that if that's kind of your if that's your out, then it'd be hard to regret it because it gave you so much, right? Whereas, yes, athletics has given me a lot, but I would say there's other things in life, especially coaching, that has given me like even more. So I want to be in the best headspace I can long term that so I can keep doing those kinds of things. And having kids and a family, that all that stuff is really important to me. So I feel like I am just like incredibly privileged to be in a spot where I can push myself really hard, but I also have a choice to dial back and say no, like this is too much. Whereas some people maybe like that might be their only option.
It's interesting when you say that because you, as you said, privileged with all different avenues that you have for yourself. I am with the belief that when you retire from sport, you're going to have a pretty beautiful transition. And what I mean in that is you have obviously worked incredibly hard to set yourself up that way, and you should take full credit and be proud of it. But with, growing a family, hunting, getting to a crazy, maybe even open a sourdough bakery, I don't know, but you have a lot of different options. And I think for me, I was so dialed in to one or two things, and I got like number wise, I got pretty good at it. But when I didn't have a diagnosis and had severe issues in my legs, and to the point where I have an accessibility parking pass, I can barely walk some days, I didn't transition well. And I had the worst 7 months of my life when from the outside, I had the car, the Skyline um, condo. I had a beautiful girlfriend, a golden retriever, like savings, great fam. Like I had all of these things, and people often would see that and see me and think like, "Oh, this guy's doing well. He's crushing it." But I was actually like severely depressed, and I was drinking a lot, and I started smoking cigarettes. And on my days off, I couldn't walk very much. So I would just stay on my couch for 16 hours a day. And of course, I ended up getting myself back in the gym and bench pressing and doing things that I could do. And I have gotten back into better health. But I just find like there's more value in life. And why I'm going on this tangent for athletes is that what you've proven, and you've done way better than I've ever done or will do in my life, that you can be fucking great and set yourself up for success when you transition into sport. And on my rant here about you, because I am very team Tory and passionate about what you're doing in your life, is you have been able to set that up through, relation with your fiance, all your different habits of hunting and those kinds of things, and be really fucking great at your athletics. And I think people need to hear this or see this, that there's a better way to transition out of sport, and that's someone like you who their identity is not you're not a power lifter. Like when I talk to you, it's not like I'm Tori, an ultra runner. I'm Tori, a power lifter. No, you're Tori. That comes with many different identities or different hats with where you are, but you're very well rounded. So I congratulate you on that because I hope that there are many young female athletes that hear this and watch us and share this with that really heard that from me. I think it's important because I know you're too humble to say it, so I'll say it for you. So I think it's really great. I think you're up to really good things, and I can see you through the rest of your career impacting a large number, especially female athletes, on how to live more rounded lives and still being great at what they do. And I wish I learned that earlier. But now I'm able to, through my own suffering, help others on their journey to do that. So um, you don't have to say anything to that, by the way. I just wanted to get that out because it's important in that moment.
No, that's really what it's about. Like we go through hardships and then we get to teach others to do better, do it differently. And uh as a coach, that's like the most important thing for me is to keep trying new things and stay open-minded, and then hopefully I have something to teach others, and that comes with experience and yeah, trying a lot of different things. So I I think that life is way too short just to put yourself like I was never gifted at anything. I just choose things that I enjoyed and worked really hard at them. So, and then I ended up like achieving the things that I wanted to do through that. So now I just have this mindset of anything I am interested in, I just need to like go full force with it and see what I can do there. And if it doesn't work out, then I can like move on to something else and try again. Like it's not that big of a deal, you know?
Yeah. There's something that you said to me once that hit my head when you were saying that is like training. I'm going to butcher the exact quote because it was just like in a verbal conversation, but it was something along the lines of like, like training's not the end all be all. Like it's not that serious. Like it's not like it's serious, but it's like there is a lot better things in life than training. Like if training is the best part of your life, like you're probably not living the potential life that you could live. There's something around those lines. And it always really made me think on that. It changed my perspective a lot. And the impact that you've had on me is when you said that maybe 2 years ago, we worked together, or 3 years ago, is I've actually never missed a single family event in the last 2 years. And for me, I was the guy who would I have an important training session or something coming up, and I wouldn't go to my nephew's whatever. Not a lot of shame in that. And I think yeah, there may be some rare times if you're going to worlds or something, but in your regular day-to-day training, like there's going to my mom's farm and like playing with the chickens is way better than going to a one training session that I can do 1,000 times. And like one of the ones I was talking with my friend the other day, I was like, yeah, going out and getting drunk is cool. You know what's also really cool? Walking out the front door with a thing of chicken feed and having 20 chickens come speeding at you and following you around, like as you know, like that's fucking cool. That is way better than any substance that I can put on my body could make me possibly feel. Um, so I wanted to touch on that as well. I don't take up too much more of your time. I think that you, yeah, I think you're a special person. And this whole speaker series that I decided to do, there are some people that are on the speaker series that have outerworldly, if not one of one credentials in this world. But there are also people that are going to be in the speaker series, and one of them is what conversation is one of the ones I'm looking forward to the most is what we would consider in society as an average man. But that average man to me is the most extraordinary man that I know. Far more than the people with the MD, the PhD, and all that kind of stuff, championships. And the reason is that he was a high functioning opioid addict for 6 years. Really good looking guy, good job. Like from the outside, you would never know, but he was like crazy dosing opioids for 6 years. And he decided to quit cold turkey, which is a terrible idea. And this isn't medical advice. And I was actually there one day when he was going through that. And I'm not going to go into details, but that was the hardest moment that I've seen anyone go through in their entire lives. And now he is by far the best father and husband and friend and family member I've ever met in my life. And I pull inspiration from him all the time to get better. And so the reason why I brought him up is that the starting point of the journey to the end point to me is far more important than someone who maybe started much farther along and ended up a little bit, you know what I mean, a little bit farther. Because I think overcoming that 6 years of opioid addiction is far more impressive than just someone getting a PhD sometimes. And I'm happy that you're able to share your journey and your process because it wasn't all roses and you worked really freaking hard to get over that. So, although I can appreciate the long list of accolades that I gave you at the start of this conversation, all the things that you do, I actually think the best thing about you is that you've changed so much in 4 years from injuries, depression, lows in your life, to now being an example to a lot of female athletes of what I believe is the best way to live. So, congratulations, man.
I made it out.
You made it out.
Made it out.
Um, it's incredible to see, and I'm absolutely privileged to be a part of your journey in some way, whatever that is, and whatever way you'll have me. And I'm always going to follow along in what you're doing. Um, is there anything more that you want to share, or anything you got going on?
Not really.
I know you're not a promoter.
Yeah, like, subscribe, follow me on all my platforms. Send me money.
It's funny because you're the only. Sorry, I should say only. You're one of the few people that I know in the coaching world, which I was one point very heavily involved in. I don't think I've ever once seen you say DM me for coaching. I don't think you very rarely post your athletes or, and not because you're not proud of them, but like I'm sure that they actually get that validation or conversation in person versus just sharing them online. Yeah, you don't really promote.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
you're
um,
crushing everything.
I think if someone wants to work with me, they'll find a way to reach out to me and, like, and, you know, like, and get in contact with me and work with me, and that's usually how it goes is people I've met in person or, like, I work for a company, which is awesome, so I meet a lot of people that way, but I would rather for me, it's quality over quantity. I'd rather make way less money and work with a few, like, awesome people and have really good connections with them and put a lot of time into these people than work with, like, 50 people and I don't have time and I end up, uh, missing messages, missing writing programming, not putting as much time into their programming. My communication is less, and then I have less time to do what I wanna do my own training, so that has always been, like, the cornerstone of how I coach, and I'm just yeah, building relationships with people is the most important thing to me, not just writing them programs and sending people on their way. So and yeah, like, obviously, I'm so proud of my athletes, and I love to share what they post, um, but, like, yeah, like you said, they know how much they mean to me and how, like, proud I am of the work that they're doing, and I don't think I need to make you know, it's like when someone's like, "Happy Mother's Day," and post a picture of their mom on Instagram. It's like, just, like, tell your mom that in person. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny you said that because so there's quite a bit there, but yeah, the what I do now is my mom on Mother's Day or birthdays or whatever, she always makes a post on a story, tags me, so I share her story to my story.
It is, like, a very mom do.
But and so, but it's funny though because I know, yeah, it's like I know someone that put a big post up, and it's a buddy of mine, so he wouldn't care if I fucking dug with pick on him because I already did. But he was like thanking his grandpa, and his grandpa doesn't have social media. So it was like in the group chat, we were just like roasting. I'm like, bro, like your grandpa doesn't have social media. Like, what are you doing? Um, it's interesting because this might be not the most favorable thing for me to say to a powerlifting coach in this online world, but I feel like a large percentage of coaching would be right now would be better using ChatGPT. Am I wrong?
I mean, I've
You
seen
can
some
disagree with me, by the way.
no, I've seen some pretty horrific programs, but I as soon as you look at it, you can tell how much time has been put into it. So, I mean, when athletes come to me and they're dealing with very specific like very specific injuries or whatever, and you look at their program and there's literally nothing in there to address it, and you're like, "What are you doing? Like, what was like the previous coach doing?" So I just think the company I work for is so far ahead in terms of coaching and writing programs. So,
Yeah, I would say I'll say it for sure, uh, by far the best strength and conditioning, powerlifting, online coaching. Um, I don't even want to use the word business because it is a business, but like the coaches across the board, I think it's the superior brand for sure. Um, I
yeah.
did an intern. I also did an internship for them, and I saw at that time how in depth it was, and now it's obviously even taken off. I think because I'm head of coaching now, and I've transitioned, and a lot of the athletes that I have, I refer them to different coaches. A couple of years ago now, is I can be a bit more outspoken on it, and this game now is scaling. I find, and like you kind of said a couple of minutes ago, you can't scale relationships to a certain extent. You can scale programming, you can scale AI, you can scale coding to be really hyper efficient, but I can't scale this 2 hour whatever conversation with you. Like we have to actually go through everything and talk about everything. And so when you look at relationships, whether that's in an elevated leadership role in business or coaching, that is really the foundation of it all. And when you have coaches out there who aren't doing well or leaders that aren't doing well, is they prioritize results over relationships. And something that you just said is that you prioritize not exactly word for word, but relationships is the most important thing to you. So I think that that's something that, for coaches that are listening, looking up to, like that's something that they should really take because you have a duty and a job to that person. They are investing their hard-earned money into you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you don't know what their like you've worked with an athlete for a year and you don't know what their dog's name is. Like are you like but I talk about their dog all the time, but you don't know their name. I had someone in the industry that I'm in messaged me a couple weeks ago and they're asking me for advice about a tiffle they're having with their general manager about something and they listed a bunch of things that they're butting heads on. And my response was, what is his daughter's name? What is his dog's name? And how long has he been married for? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And my response was, okay, start there and then come back to me. And they ended up getting the point after a while. But the relationships is really what makes a great team or a great coaching dynamic with an athlete. And that really, in my opinion, determines the potential of that athlete's performance and coach's performance.
Yeah. I mean, I can usually tell right away when I'm working with someone how like, where they're gonna end up or how great of an athlete they're gonna be just by the way they communicate, and what they're willing to share. So, it helps me a lot to program for someone and work with someone, the better I know them, right? If I know that they need a lot of reassurance, then at least I can give them that, and that's gonna help them get even further. So, if they
It's sorry.
I was just gonna say the opposite too, maybe they need someone that's hands off and that's telling them literally just do the program, and, like, then I can do that too, so
It's yeah. We'll wrap up soon because you know with you and I think that we could probably do this for I don't know 24 hours. We could do an ultra marathon podcast, but these topics are really really good, and it's going to be super valuable for people to gain more of like a maybe a little bit of a different perspective or understanding on things than what they see in social media and online and what goes on behind the scenes. And I remember when I worked with Jordan, well, I didn't. I'm his coach. So he won nationals. I coached him. And I remember there was times, I think he'd be okay if I shared it, where, he went through a breakup, was having a hard time. And I remember, well, we live in the same city, but I remember like I drove to his fucking house and I sat on his couch for 3 hours. I'm not saying that for me to like kind of like brag because I don't think I'm as good as a coach as you are, but that was crucial to us winning nationals, that 1 to 3 hour conversation that we had. And when you, like you said, when you build that relationship, like with me for the first time ever hiring a coach to deal with all my rehab, like, when I saw my grandpa for the last time last weekend, like I let him know that because he needs to know about my stress levels and what's going on. And I think male athletes for sure are worse at that, of sharing things. And sometimes for me, I had to really kind of tease it out of them. And one approach that I've always found is that vulnerability creates vulnerability. So when I started just with guys, I would be like, those guys that are like, show no emotion. I'm a alpha bravado guy. I would just open up a crazy vulnerable story about myself. And then they would be like, oh fuck, like, oh yeah, I had that too actually. That happened to me. Yeah, the one time my girlfriend didn't talk to me for 5 days and I didn't sleep very much and didn't eat very much. And it's like, okay, got it. Do you now see why I need to know that? Because if you don't sleep for 5 days and eat for 5 days, I need to adjust your training to lower the volume or intensity or like give some kind of emotional support. Um, and I know you do this because I know you well, but I wanted you to dive into that today because I think that that is something that separates you and the company you work for. Because I feel I was always left feeling like I haven't talked to Jason in a couple of years, but I always saw that that guy really cared about me.
yeah.
I was like really cared about me. And it was weird because he's this crazy successful coach of this massive company. Like I'm just a random coach intern guy, and Jordan competed against one of his athletes at Nats or whatever, and that's kind of how we met. And I remember in 2022, he messaged me randomly, and I won't say the athlete's name, but he was like, "Hey man, are you taking any athletes?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like that's kind of weird with your company. And it was a female that was in the same weight class as another female. So this athlete didn't want that dynamic for, understandable. And so he introduced me to her, and she's like this like 100,000 follower, crazy like world level power lifter. And I was like, man, like that's crazy. Like this guy cares about obviously that athlete who doesn't want to even go to his company and me who doesn't even work for his company. And he's going to spend the time to like link us up. And there's three coaches she decided between, and I wasn't one of them, unfortunately. But like that is some crazy relationship building humility. And even if I don't talk to him much anymore, he's always someone who I think really exemplifies like genuinely caring for people. And I think you've learned that maybe from him a bit in your own journey, but that's what's really separating you guys and those coaches.
Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be the coach I am today without him, without everyone on our team, without working with the team. I learn so much every day from everybody, and yeah, being part of a team and having working with people that are better than you is is just invaluable. Like, I don't know how you can just coach like on your own. Well, you can coach on your own, but I think you need to be like talking to people that know more than you and like learning from them.
Hmm.
So
And you have the biggest or one of the bigger talent pools for that. It's always yeah, it was interesting because you think you're good until you're around someone far better, and you're like, oh, there's a large gap here. There's a
mhm.
very large gap. And for me, when I am one of my, my leadership journey was I got a manager job, and I was operations has always come very easy for me or easier, like labor numbers, sales projections, hitting profit, and all that kind of stuff. But my focus groups, I was always just showing up so poorly for people. And my boss at the time was like the calm, cool, always cared about people. Everyone fucking loved him. And for me, it was like seeing what he was doing. I was like, man, he's a year older than me. That's it. Like I was so fucking embarrassed that this guy's a year older than me. And he always made comments. He'd be like, yeah, but you're a lot farther in athletics. And I like would just study this guy and like listen to him and stuff. And like, one of the things he'd always do is he would always say gain an understanding, right? Like every conversation start with gain an understanding and ask questions. And anytime I don't land well with someone, it's because I don't ask a question first and get curious. And that's just like an example, right? When you're around people, whether it's Jason or Ben, or I'm around guys like James, it's like, yeah, that's really how you start closing gaps. It's not
You
you going,
need to
pardon?
I was gonna say you need to let people know that you genuinely care about them and what they're doing. And they'll give you a lot of information, they'll open up, and that's how you create a relationship with someone. Like I don't go to someone thinking, okay, I really want them to know about me. Like I can't wait for this person to get to know me. Like that would be weird, right? And I
It's
feel like
weird,
sometimes we are like building relationships with someone thinking that telling them about our lives is gonna like it's gonna help, you know?
well, the story I always tell on that, and of course, I won't use any names. I was at a nationals one year, and there's me and five athletes. One of the athletes out of the five won NAS that year, and two of them got silver. The other one placed wherever, and the other gentleman has never competed at a nationals yet. And the gold medalist and the two silver medalists were talking about their day. Like that's one of the biggest days of their entire lives at that moment. They were 20, 21. And the gentleman who hasn't competed at nationals yet, every single time someone stopped talking, he started talking about his training or his nutrition or whatever his agenda was in his head to talk about himself. And it was just so like that was a moment for me where I realized like how often do I do that? Because I don't want to do that. And of course, at the time, I was probably doing that more than I wanted to, and I still do. I'm not perfect, but I think when you're in an elevated role, whether that's a coach to an athlete or an elevated leader to someone else, it's so important to put their agenda first, or
Mhm.
their agenda or their feelings in that moment first, because you are the elevated leader. You have to show up for them. They don't have to necessarily show up for you. Like eventually, maybe they will, but they're not going to show up well for you until you show up well for them. And I think a lot of that is just getting curious, asking questions. And there was one time where I was like, I don't know why, but I was like super upset about something. And I walked into the restaurant, and James saw that I was upset. And I come out of the change room, and I come out, and James is like, table. And the guy canceled like two of his meetings, his Zoom meetings that day, and sat down with me for like 2 hours and had this like long conversation. And that's just like an example, right? Where it's like you're putting that, like you said, you're putting that person first. Um,
Yeah, I
but
think it always comes back to you. Like, with I try my hardest, obviously I slip up too, but in all my relationships, I I am always trying to put everyone else first and get it just doing whatever I can to make things easier on them, whether that's like coaching or with anything else. And the universe always finds a way to like to reward you, right? And it feels good. Like when you're doing things for other people, like that always feels good. So why not just always do that? I don't know if I've ever felt good after I am like doing something maybe at the expense of someone else.
I agree. Last one I'm going to leave you on is, I guess I'll explain. I'll define the words like in my how I kind of define them is like, so collectiveness would be what you're doing is for the, sometimes at the expense of yourself, but the betterment of other people. So whether that's in coaching or leadership, maybe you get 4 hours of sleep because you got to coach athletes the next day. So you put them before yourself. And then there's individualism where you put yourself before others. Like you take a vacation or you never miss your morning routine. In your life, because you live many different hats, how do you balance when you're being the collectivist Tory and putting athletes first at your own expense, and then putting yourself first for the other hats that you're wearing? Does that make sense?
So I would say I put myself first in how do I put this? I want to make sure that I can show up as my best self for everything else. So I know that if I'm sleeping 4 hours a night for a week straight, I would not show up as my best self for people. Or like I have like a home bakery. If I'm sleeping for 4 hours a night, like I'm probably gonna not do my best at my work that day. So I try to take care of myself as much as I can so I can do like the best possible work and give whatever I can to other people, if that makes sense. Like I know if I had so much going on and I had to skip training for a week, I would not, yeah, like I just wouldn't be showing up as my best.
Got
So
it.
there's got to be like a little bit of give and take. I went and coached nationals last year, and I knew I was gonna be busy and I still wanted to get in my training, and I knew something was gonna have to be sacrificed. So yeah, I did. My sleep was horrible that week, but uh I chose to train, like do all my training sessions because I knew that would make me feel good and like be able to show up for athletes that week and coaching and stuff. I knew that if maybe I was getting a bit more sleep but wasn't getting in my training, probably wouldn't feel as good. So no, I just have to decide what what's gonna make me feel best to be my best for other people.
Yeah, that's a great way to end this. Yeah, I really like that a lot. I had a good time. I always appreciate you. It's very cool that where our journey started and us now doing this in the speaker series. So thank you for your time. I know it's very valuable, and I think a lot of people are going to get something from this. So I don't actually know how this all this works yet. I'm figuring it out as it goes. I just started this idea 10 days ago, but I'll make sure it's gonna go on like I think Spotify, YouTube, and I'll tag you in it and share it and post it and tell the world about how great you are. So you don't have to worry about that stuff. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, Tori.
Yeah. Bye.